Watch this.
We were trapped. So the next few days was a real fight for survival.
45 years ago, on May 18, 1980, Mount Saint Helens erupted. 57 people died and the landscape changed forever. Today, we're talking to the people who experienced it firsthand.
Hasn't moved.
It hasn't moved
It's
an inch.
right where you put it.
It's right where we put it.
They built a dam to protect communities after the Mount Saint Helens eruption, and 45 years later, the engineers who made it come back together to see their important work still standing. Plus, an in-depth investigation into police guns that are misfiring on their own. Now they could go to the public. Sunday marked 45 years since the Mount Saint Helens eruption rocked the Pacific Northwest. You remember it? Celine Stevens at our sister station in Portland paid a visit to Toutle, Washington over the weekend to learn more about the impact of the eruption and how the landscape around the mountain has changed in the past 4 decades.
Oh, it was desolate. It was ugly gray desert. It was terrible. It was dead.
If you look out toward Mount St. Helens in recent times, it looks anything but dead.
It's coming back. It's all turning green, and it's amazing what 20 years difference made.
The eruption of Mount St. Helens back in 1980 led to the death of 57 people, making it the deadliest volcanic eruption in U.S. history.
So we are standing in the blast zone right now, and this was completely wiped out. It took out an area of 230 square miles, roughly the area the size of Chicago, in 3 minutes.
It killed thousands of animals and destroyed the environment, with the damage amounting to over $1 billion.
It was one of the most well-documented volcanic eruptions.
Many still remember the day and went up to the Science and Learning Center at Coldwater for the 45th anniversary.
I went to the window and looked out, and I went, holy crap. Not exactly what I said, but big plume. 20,000 feet or so, and by then, I guess.
I actually lived in Longview when it erupted and got a lot of pictures over the trees of the big cloud. And so this is just kind of reminiscing for me.
Even those who weren't in the area when the volcano blew also stopped by Sunday, knowing the historical significance of Mount St. Helens.
It's very important to actually know what's going on in your environment around you, especially considering we're in the Pacific Rim of Fire here. There's 5 active volcanoes here in Washington State.
This Science and Learning Center at Coldwater, about 7 miles away from the volcano itself. Anna Coburn, lead park ranger at Mount St. Helens National Volcanic Monument, explains the impact of the volcano's eruption beyond the destruction.
It shaped the way we think of disaster response around volcanoes and preparedness. It shaped the way we think of ecology and how fast things can come back.
While the 45th anniversary brought less than an ideal view of the mountain, the center still offered learning experiences for visitors, including exhibits, a gift shop, and a film. While it's still active, Coburn says people shouldn't be too alarmed, but still, never forget its power.
It's still a very serious thing. It's still a very frightening thing to have in your backyard, so it's always good to be a little scared of this thing.
So if you're looking for a trip this summer, you could actually go enjoy the landscape and learn more about the volcano. You can visit the Science Center and the Learning Center on Coldwater. It is now open on weekends from 10 to 4 local time and expected to open 7 days a week for the summer by mid-June up in Washington. So like we just heard, the eruption of Mount St. Helens 45 years ago, back on May 18th, 1980, a very, very well documented volcanic eruption, but documenting it all was very dangerous. Reddy Wakayama at our sister station in Seattle spoke with a Washington man who went to film the aftermath of the eruption when he found himself in a fight for survival.
My experience at Mount St. Helens was literally unforgettable.
It's been 45 years since Mount St. Helens erupted. But for 65-year-old Michael Lee now, it's a time that will always stick with him.
Here's some of the photos of our journey. I can smell and taste it just like it was yesterday. I guess I've lived it so many times since then and been able to share it. But it's a stark reminder, of how quickly things can change.
Lee now was 20 years old when the volcano first erupted. Just days after, he and 4 others were tasked by a Seattle film production company to capture the aftermath from the ground. But they never expected what would happen next.
The heavy magnetism in the ash caused our compass to spin around in circles. So we got disoriented, got lost. We eventually had to spend the night, and that night, Mount Saint Helens erupted.
He says heavy ash started falling on them and eventually turned into rain. And with large trees toppled over from the first eruption, they were trapped in the dangerous elements.
It was extremely difficult to climb up and over those trees, and there was layers of ash on it. And then when it rained, it was this hot, mucky stuff that just stuck to your boots and everything. And it became a living nightmare for us.
The nightmare continued for 4 days. They were suffering from hypothermia, starvation, and dehydration, losing hope rapidly, until rescue crews spotted them.
They were surprised to find us, and we were surprised that they found us. It was a great relief, and it just seemed like angels coming out of the sky when we saw those Huey helicopters.
Lee now takes a lot of lessons from his experience, but admits,
I don't think I would do it again, but I'm glad that I had the experience and that it worked out the way that it did for us.
So how do you respond to the largest landslide in recorded history? When Mount St. Helens erupted 45 years ago, a group of engineers were called to the front lines. The engineers worked to clear hazards and build a dam, and the dam was built to protect communities and commerce downriver from the long-term effects of that 1980 eruption. The dam is still standing today, and so are some of the folks who helped put it together. Drew Mickelson at our sister station in Seattle was there as they returned to the volcano.
Things start coming back to you, all the memories.
What a treat.
They've returned.
I come back here every 5 years if I can. It's been about 6 years because of COVID.
To a place that rose from the ashes.
Hasn't moved.
It hasn't moved
It's
an inch.
right where you put it.
It's right where we put it.
These men were here in the days and years following the eruption of Mount St. Helens, when the landscape changed May 18th, 1980.
Filling up the North Fork of the Toutle River with 3 billion cubic yards of material, raising Spirit Lake 200 feet, flattening 150 square miles of old growth timber.
The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers was in charge of the recovery efforts.
If this material gets on down the river, you have flood control problems and above all navigation problems in the Columbia River.
Retired Colonel Terry Connell was the district commander in 1980, heading up dredging projects in the Columbia River, where ships got stuck in the volcano's sediment. The Army Corps also constructed a 1.5 mile long tunnel, providing a man-made outflow to the new Spirit Lake created by the eruption.
And I'll say the Corps of Engineers in general does amazing things for our nation.
It just triggers a lot of memories.
Civil engineer Steve Stockton helped design the Corps' sediment retention structure. The 1/3 of a mile long partial dam, completed in 1989, keeps sediment from increasing flood risks downstream on the Toutle, Cowlitz, and Columbia rivers, much more populated areas along vital shipping routes.
So it's basically to create a barrier that slows the water down and causes the river to dump sediment further away.
And we're still dealing with that sediment from 45 years ago.
Yes.
The height of the original structure has been increased and could be again. And the Army Corps of Engineers is still working up at Spirit Lake, replacing intake gates to keep the trees blown down in the eruption from clogging the only outlet. The federal government is also exploring replacing that tunnel, which is showing signs of aging and could be compromised by an earthquake.
When you two get together, what?
We enjoy a scotch.
That's right.
These retirees don't worry much about Mount St. Helens anymore. They just hope the next generation doesn't forget the lessons learned here.
You need to have the capacity to respond to problems, whatever the problem set is that you're dealt with.
These things that we don't know will happen, we have to be aware that they might and be thinking about them in preparation up to the point that makes sense. File away.
They're still proud of their work.
1, 2, 3.
45 years after the eruption. Drew Mickelson.
We're coming back for the 50th.
King 5 News.
Get this gun off my range. Don't bring it back on range.
Those guns could get in the hands of the public. We'll tell you how, just ahead. You know what else is coming up? Your comments. Yes, text us your questions, comments, concerns, or even Memorial Day weekend plans. We hope it's a meaningful one. And whatever it is, just send it to the number on your screen, 208-321-5614. Just remember to include your name so we can give you credit and hashtag the 208 so we know it's for us. We will get to some of these live at the end of the show. Local police agencies are getting rid of their controversial firearms, but investigators at our sister station in Seattle learned that hundreds of those discarded weapons could end up in the hands of citizens. Chris Ingalls has an investigation on the guns that some experts say is a safety threat. These are guns that supposedly fire on their own.
Hey guys, it's Rick with Achilles Tactical.
One of the newest videos making the rounds on the internet comes from this Knoxville, Tennessee firearms trainer, an instructor teaching a live fire course.
Like my demonstration, I want you guys. All right.
320? Yep. Is interrupted when a handgun fires during a ceasefire.
Get this gun off my range. Don't bring it back on the range.
The instructor is convinced the Sig Sauer Model P320 fired without the student pulling the trigger and bans the gun from his range.
These guns will not be tolerated in these classes at my training center or at our training events any longer.
As the evidence against the P320 grows, more Washington law agencies are shedding the firearm that's commonly used by police and the military.
Next is the replacement of police-issued firearms.
At this Burlington City Council meeting in Skagit County, a police commander requested replacing the P320s that their officers carry.
They decided we should go with the Smith & Wesson MP2. So I'm here to request approval to purchase the 33 firearms we need.
Records requested by the King 5 investigators show the low bid for those 33 new guns is $28,000 from a company called Proforce. But there's a catch. Burlington will get credit for trades, which makes the price $13,000 less than other bids. The city will send its P320s to the firearms dealer for resale and, according to the mayor, wash the city's hands of any liability.
By working with a federal registered firearm dealer, they take the risk of buying them. As far as potential lawsuits coming back, if somebody should buy one of these and have a misfire, if we sell them out to individuals, we assume that risk. If we sell them to these firearms organization, they assume the risk then when they resell them.
But is it right for a public safety agency to put questionable firearms back in the public's hands, even indirectly?
What do you think of that?
It's shameful that those weapons are going to be in the homes of civilians, knowing
that the gun could go off at any time.
Craig Jacklin is a retired Pennsylvania transit cop who worked the commuter tunnels in Philadelphia.
That's crazy, man. There's a bullet right there.
He was on patrol with his partner in 2018 in this golf cart when they came to a stop.
Both hands on the steering wheel, I could go to exit the vehicle and a weapon went off. Boom, just like that.
It's holstered. It's holstered. I'm sitting right there. It just boom. No, I didn't get hit.
You're not hit?
No.
A woman had just entered the hair shop that we were parked in. The round missed her by a millisecond. It missed her foot by a millisecond. She walked by and boom, you can see the impact on the ground.
Yeah, I need you to 107 me, sir.
Officer Jacklin said his P320 fired on its own. The transit authority cleared him of any wrongdoing and quickly dumped their Sig Sauers for a different brand of handgun.
My gun just went off.
What the hell?
There was no shooter? Sir?
In the 6 years since Jacklin's case, dozens of other victims across the country, many of them police officers, have claimed their P320s fired, often while holstered.
And downrange.
As we reported exclusively in February, the Washington Academy that trains all police officers banned P320s at its facilities. Jacklin says the gun should be pulled off the market, not put back up for sale by police agencies trying to save a buck.
And every police department that has that weapon, they know the risk.
Furthermore, King 5 has obtained records from 2018 showing a Burlington sergeant reported his P320 fired completely on its own, blowing apart his holster and ripping through his pants pocket.
Oh my God, what was that?
Last year, body cameras were rolling as a Kitsap County Sheriff's deputy's holstered P320 fired during a struggle in a grocery store.
That's an empty shell.
That came out of your gun?
That just came out of my gun.
In each case, Sig Sauer investigated and claimed objects like handcuffs entered the holster and pulled the trigger.
What do you make of that explanation?
I think it's misdirection.
Jeff Bagnell is a Connecticut lawyer who has sued Sig Sauer nearly 24 times.
They say this all the time, Chris. Every time this happens, they say something got in the holster.
Sig Sauer has never responded to our numerous requests for comment, but in press releases has said the P320 cannot, under any circumstances, discharge without a trigger pull. It blames negligence or faulty equipment in each case.
Growing concerns about the safety of the P320, which has been involved in multiple lawsuits.
Like Burlington, Kitsap County commissioners this year also decided to buy new handguns and trade in the department's 229 P320s to reduce the cost by $108,000. County commissioners seem well aware of the risk of selling guns that the state says are too dangerous for police officers.
I'm all for it, but not putting weapons out there on the street that are defective, potentially defective.
But that's $100,000.
It's $100,000, right? But my conscience is killing me here. What's $100,000 compared to somebody's life?
The Kitsap County Commission emphasizes it was the sheriff's decision to trade the guns in for credit, and a sheriff's spokesperson said that it is, quote, logical and fiscally responsible thing to do, and, quote, we do not know if the dealer will resell these weapons and whether they may go to the public. It would be a waste of tax dollars to destroy them.
I'm sure those animals are loving the warmer weather. We're seeing summer-like weather, and we're going to see that this weekend for the holiday weekend. Looking at your temperatures on Monday, if you happen to be traveling anywhere across state borders, these are some temperatures we're going to see nationwide. Boise expecting 80 degrees for Memorial Day, one of the warmest locations in the Pacific Northwest. The spot that has us beat, Salt Lake City, 84 degrees. Redding, California, expecting 85 degrees, but we're looking warmer Monday than a lot of the places on the East Coast, looking like they're in the 60s or the 70s. Most of the spots that do have us beat, though, are going to be those southern states. 89 in Miami, 90 in Houston. Phoenix expecting 99 degrees on Monday for Memorial Day. If you're traveling locally, Treasure Valley and the Magic Valley are sticking in the 80s for Memorial Day. Mountains should be in the 70s, possibly only reaching the upper 60s, but they do have a chance of seeing some showers in the afternoon on Monday as well, just like similar to what we're seeing today. We've seen light showers, a few storms occur here and there, so that could make a comeback on the afternoon of Memorial Day. But until then, we have sunny and warm conditions for Saturday and Sunday. This is what we've been seeing over the past couple hours. You can see most showers have been isolated to the Central Mountains or the Owyhee Mountains. In higher elevations is where the most activity is being seen at this point. Treasure Valley hasn't really seen much of any precipitation yet because a lot of those showers are vaporizing before they really hit the ground. Magic Valley looks pretty clear, so you can see Boise going forward should be pretty dry for the rest of this evening. If we look at our futurecast, there could be a few sprinkles that do cross the I-84 down there, but they move through pretty quick, and then overnight we'll see our clouds move out as well, and we're going to wake up to a really clear day for tomorrow. Looking at 80 degrees, sunshine on Saturday. Sunday will warm up even more to the upper 80s, and then we're looking at 80s for the next several days, 90 degrees on Thursday next week.
Let's get to some of your comments to end the week here on the 208. Scott B. writes, as someone with an extensive history carrying weapons in combat and civilian security environment, I can no longer in good conscience carry or allow any of my employees to carry a P320. Yeah, seeing comments like that, great investigative report there. This person says, as a taxpayer, I'm perfectly fine with destroying those PS evil guns. Thanks for the comment, SR. A classmate on to Mount Saint Helens, Jim Fitzgerald from Geology Department at University of Idaho, was studying the volcano and lost his life when Saint Helens erupted. His fellows' messages finished his thesis and they presented it to his mother. That's Luis and Terry. Thank you so much for the comment. Yeah, what an unbelievable event. Chris in Mountain Home writes, I was on the Oregon coast after Mount Saint Helens eruption and ash was everywhere. Such a memorable time for everyone that was here in the Pacific Northwest. Thank you so much, Chris, for the comment there. This person says, I lived in Salem, Oregon on May 18th, 1960 when St. Helens blew. I was in a 7-Eleven 100 miles south when it blew to the north. I could hear it. It was on my 37th birthday. Oh, yeah, that's certainly a day you'll never forget. Brian Holmes, the Brian Holmes, I verified, texting in for good reason here on the 208, writing to our producer, Katie, who is having her final show as we speak here on the 208. She was the runner of this great program. Brian Holmes writes, thank you for helping the 208 through its toddler stage. You have been an asset, a leader, a great teammate, and a friend. We love you and we will miss you. Go get him. Yes, we will miss you, Katie. Brian, well said. I +1 on that one. And then Grizzly is very sad. It's producer Katie's last day, but he will keep watching for Brian, Joe, Aspen, and the whole team. That's Katie's dog, Grizzly. He always watches the 208. What a good boy. Hi, Grizz. You're such a good boy.
Continue with us and watch free now on the KTVB Plus app everywhere you stream.